My name is Taylor Hobson, and this is the story of my place in Canadian history. My story starts off in the streets in a small town in Belfast, Northern Ireland, where both my great-great-great-grandparents, John William Gracie and Sarah Jane Smith, were both born and raised. Although they did not know each other at the time, they were destined to be together. John worked at his family blacksmith business part-time, and Sarah Jane worked at a local boarding house as a servant and maid. On June 10, 1861, they caught eyes in a local bakery and it was love at first sight. 5 years later, they were joined together in holy matrimony in Newcastle Down, Ireland on September 28, 1866. Throughout the year, Sarah Jane gave birth to 7 kids, 3 boys, 4 girls. Being the religious family that they were, they attended church every Sunday. In the winter of 1881, the Hobson family moved into town and joined the church. The Gracies and Hobsons became very close friends, and so did the children. 10 years later, Mary Ann Gracie married Robert Hobson in the town church in Belfast, Ireland. During this time, both families were not doing so well and were coming up with barely enough money to feed everyone. They were hearing a lot about the wonderful opportunities that Canada provided for larger families. These opportunities were new jobs, lots of land, freedom, and a chance to start a new life. They jumped at the opportunity and joined thousands of other Irish immigrants on the boat ride over to Canada in the early 1900s. They settled in Toronto, Ontario, and on September 1st, 1906, Rachel Gracie married William Hobson. Toronto was a great place to be living in the early 1900s. There were loads of job opportunities and a high employment rate. My great-great-grandfather started his own business, and my grandmother went to school to become a nurse. 3 years later, they had their first child and my great-grandfather, Edward MacDonald Hobson, on August 4th, 1908. They later had 3 other kids, my great-aunts and uncles, William, Sarah, and Martha. Things were going good for my family until 1916, the middle of World War I. My great-great-grandmother, Rachel Gracie, and her 3 brothers, my great-great-uncles, Thomas Gracie, William Gracie, and Robert Gracie, were forced by conscription into joining the war. Although Rachel was not forced into war because of conscription, she joined because she believed that because she was a new immigrant, she should join to help prove her loyalty to Canada. Rachel became one of the many women nurses to join World War I. The 4 set off to France to go fight. Sadly, Sarah was the only one that made it home from France. The family was reunited. After World War I, the Great Depression forced my great-grandparents, Rachel and William, and the children to move to Ottawa because it was the only place where William could get a job. Time continued without a hitch and moved on, and finally they got their lives back on track. Edward MacDonald Hobson, my great-grandfather, and my great-grandmother, Lauren Irene Rutsey, were both high school sweethearts. They got married in August 1930. They later then had 3 children, William Hobson, Barbara Hobson, and my grandfather, Edward Hobson. The family moved back to Toronto for a while, then moved into what used to be a small town called Markham. Edward then got married to Janice and had 2 children, my Aunt Jill and my dad, Michael Edward Hobson. My dad was born on September 11th, 1966, and attended Franklin Public School and then Markham District High School, where he met my mom in grade 9. My dad had a little crush on my mom, but life took them in 2 different directions. They then later met up again at the Markham Fair and have been together ever since. They got married on September 7th, 1966, and this is where I come in. A year later, I was born on November 30th, 1997, and then, 3 years later, my little sister Lauren and my little brother Michael were also born. I know that no matter what my job is or whatever path I take in life, I have made a place for myself in Canadian history.